Hi, I'm Maggie Pedigo. Today I'm going to be making a recipe called Marzetti for my recipe modification lab for Healthy Cooking 101. This is one of my favorite pasta recipes, so today I'm going to attempt to make a healthier version of it. The original recipe that I make calls for 1.5 pounds hamburger, 1 8-ounce package of wide egg noodles, 1 can of tomato soup, 1 can cream of mushroom soup, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of salt, a 1/3 cup chopped green pepper, 1/3 cup chopped onion, a cup of chopped celery, and a 1/4 pound of American cheese. I use Velveeta, the box Velveeta. And then for the buttered crumbs that I usually put on top of the original recipe, it's 4 tablespoons melted butter and 1 cup crushed cracker crumbs. The original recipe calls for a cup of chopped celery, so I am going to split this recipe in half. Half of it will go to the healthy new recipe and half will go to the original recipe. So I usually cut the celery down the middle so there's 4 pieces, separate pieces, and then I chop it because I don't like big pieces of celery in the dish. Like I said, the original version calls for a cup of chopped celery. So what I'm going to do is put half a cup in my original version and half in my modified version. Next, the recipe calls for a 1/3 cup of chopped onion. Again, I'm going to divide that between the original and the modified version. Now that I have a 1/3 cup of onion, I'm going to need a 1/3 cup of green pepper, which will also be split between the 2 recipes. So in my original recipe, I usually use about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of regular ground beef. For this recipe, I'm going to cut that in half and use half of that in ground beef and half in ground turkey. While my ground beef's cooking, I'm going to cook both of my noodles. The original recipe calls for the wide egg noodles. For my modification, I'm going to use 100% whole grain noodles, so I'm going to cook both of those, boil both of those now, so they're ready. Now that I have everything mixed together, this is what it looks like. So since this is the original recipe, I'm going to pour the mixture into the regular egg noodles. I'm now going to make my modified version of Marzetti. Instead of using ground beef, we're going to use ground turkey. So I'm going to use, since I cut the recipe in half, I'm going to use a little over 1/2 pound. And I'm going to brown this till it's almost brown in the skillet, and then I'll add the vegetables. Now that my ground turkey is almost all the way browned, I'm going to drain it and add my chopped celery, chopped green pepper, and chopped onion. And the original recipe calls for 1/4 tablespoon of butter. I'm not going to add that to the modified recipe. I'm now browning a little over 1/2 pound of ground turkey with my 1/3 cup chopped green pepper cut in half, 1/3 cup chopped onion cut in half, and 1/2 cup chopped celery. Once my onions look clear, then I'll know that the vegetables are cooked and the ground beef will be cooked as well. I'm going to add salt and pepper. I'm going to cut the salt in half. So instead of a teaspoon of salt, it's going to be half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to use both soups. It'll be half a can of tomato soup. I'm going to use the heart healthy Campbell's tomato soup instead of the regular, and the fat-free can of cream of mushroom soup, and that'll also be half the can. I'm also going to add the Velveeta cheese, but instead of 1/8 of a pound, I'm going to use a little less than that. And at that point, I'll turn off the heat and mix all of the ingredients. I'm going to add them to the whole wheat egg noodles. We're going to put it in the casserole dish and bake it at 350 for about 40 minutes. The original recipe calls for the butter crumbs on top, but the modified version is not going to have that. This is what it looks like before we put it in the oven. Okay, both of the recipes are done. This is the original version with the breadcrumbs, and this is the modified version. So I just got some feedback on both recipes. My boyfriend didn't notice a difference. I had to tell him that one was healthier. So I'm going to try now the original. Which is good. Good. The modified is still good, but you can tell there's less butter and less salt in it. But overall, it's got the same taste. So for my modified form of Marzetti, I used whole wheat noodles instead of the regular egg noodles. I used ground turkey instead of ground beef. I cut back on the salt by half. And instead of regular tomato soup and cream of mushroom soup, I used the heart healthy and the fat-free versions. This modified recipe would be better for people that enjoy their pasta recipes but want to make them in a healthier way, and the taste is pretty similar. If you have any questions, you can email me at me-pedigo, P-E-D-I-G-O, @wiu.edu. Thanks.